Every living creature on this earth dies alone. A quote from the movie Donnie Darko. Now, I really like this movie because it explores existentialism with a really cool backdrop of dreams, psychological phenomenon, and time travel and quantum mechanics. And I think people do get kind of stuck on the time travel and quantum mechanics aspect of the movie. They're very complicated, and I won't really go into them just because I don't want to spoil the movie too much. Although I would be happy to explain it, but I want to keep it spoiler free. This movie, I really like the aesthetic of this movie. It of course, has like a dark, sort of Halloween like aesthetic, but it does a lot of weird things with it, and it does a lot of weird stuff as well. Like in a few scenes, there's like goo coming out of Donnie's chest and like other people's chests, and it's so weird, but it works really well. There's lots of other stuff like that in the movie. The basic premise, or at least how it opens, is a jet engine falls in the room of a boy named Donnie Darko, and he doesn't get killed by this engine because he sleepwalks, so he slept on a golf course that night, and he didn't get crushed by the jet engine. And then soon after, he starts seeing an imaginary friend of his named Frank, who's in a creepy bunny costume, and Frank begins to tell Donnie to do crimes. And I think I'll leave it at that for the description of the movie, because I want you to watch it. So, a few months ago, I first watched the theatrical version of it, which is a bit shorter than the director's cut. Actually, a good bit shorter than it. And the I do think the theatrical version is better. It's a lot better edited, and overall just a better viewing experience, I think. But you do get a bigger understanding of the philosophy of time travel in the director's cut version, as well as they just show a lot more stuff in the director's cut. So I would recommend watching the theatrical version first, and then watching the director's cut. They're both very good. Although I'm not sure if I was a big fan of the editing of the director's cut. It wasn't bad by any means. It just kind of threw me off, and I feel like the audio mixing was a bit weird as well. So I don't know what's up with that. Another thing I want to say is that most of the actors in this movie are really good. They all feel, especially the mom in the movie, I feel like she gives off a very caring and concerning vibe while also not being like overly irrational about what's going on. I really like that about her character, as well as just every character in this movie does a good job acting, aside for some child actors that don't do the best job, but they still do good. And I think Donnie Darko is a very entertaining character because he does have a good moral compass, but he's also not just like some suck up who just is blindly devoted to some cause. Ultimately, he's kind of doing it for his own benefit, or really, he's doing it for his own purpose. He just kind of doesn't realize it yet. And really, what I want to do is I want to paint Donnie Darko as an absurd hero. And the idea of the absurd hero comes from the philosopher Albert Camus. And I want to talk a bit about the myth of Sisyphus. I mentioned Sisyphus in my Stranger video, but I didn't really explain it. Sisyphus is a Greek myth, a character who is damned to roll up a boulder up a hill for all of eternity, for it to just then roll down. And he does this repeatedly every day. That's all his existence is rolling a boulder up a hill, nothing else. And Camus presents the idea that this character is actually happy, and that he is able to find meaning in this pursuit, and that he finds meaning in just the pursuit of finding meaning. And he also does Camus also does want to point out that, like, the ways that we're not like Sisyphus, that we actually have a lot going on that can provide us with meaning, even if it does seem as dull as just pushing a boulder up a hill for all eternity. And I think Donnie Darko actually does have a very meaningful fate cut out for him. I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but I would like to say that every single event in this movie, even if it doesn't seem like it, it is in place to fulfill Donnie's purpose. And throughout the movie, before he fulfills his purpose, Donnie is confronting the absurd. He questions other people's existence, he questions purpose, and he questions God, and he almost does give into despair. He worries that his life is scripted, and this is what part of what makes him interested in time travel, because he really does question if his life can be meaningful if it is just scripted. And he begins to theorize that God is what will provide this purpose, even though he's an agnostic. And I'm not sure God is exactly what he's looking for. I do believe in God, but I think God might just be his way of saying an absurd purpose, I guess. And like I said, in the end, I think he ultimately does come to this absurd purpose. So, Donnie Darko finds purpose in an empty universe where every creature dies alone. And he finds fulfillment in that. If that's not an absurd hero, I don't know what is. Anyways, I really like this movie. I think it does nearly everything right. I do think there's a couple characters that don't quite make sense to me. But besides that, I like everything about this movie. It's really well done. There's a website I'm going to link in the description for after you watch the movie. I think it'll help explain some of the time travel and quantum mechanics aspects of this movie. Don't get too caught up on those, but it does make it will make the meaning make more sense. I think you do need to understand it for the ending to make sense. But that's not it. It does have a gimmick, but that's not the point of the movie. At least not the point I found in it. And I am imprinting my own meaning onto it quite a bit. I don't think I've ever heard anyone call Donnie Darko an absurd hero, but that's what I want to paint him as. So